Hello, I'm Dick Sutphen, and this is my wife, Tara.
Welcome.
Welcome to Psychic Video Magazine, where we're going to explore various aspects of the metaphysical world. And we're going to begin with a remote viewing session, which I'm going to conduct, a video hypnosis altered state of consciousness session. Then, Tara and I are going to go down and see Jess Stern. Now, Jess is the metaphysical author of The Sleeping Prophet, many other New Age bestsellers. He lives on a beach here in Malibu, and we'll have a nice visit with him. We're going to end with a seminar that was conducted at the Malibu Shaman, and we're going to explore some after-death aspects that I think you'll find very interesting. So now, let's begin with the concept of remote viewing, the idea of projecting your mind to another location. Now, I was first introduced to this idea in 1976 by Richard Bach. Richard, of course, is the author of Jonathan Livingston Seagull and many other books that you've probably read. We spent the day sharing a lot of ideas, concepts, and our experiences. And Richard told me about his explorations with SRI, the Stanford Research Institute in Menlo Park, California. Now, in the early 1970s, in the engineering and bioengineering laboratories of SRI, two scientists, Russell Targ and Hal Puthoff, were conducting the first remote viewing sessions. And what they were doing is they were proving that everyone is psychic. Now, the way that the sessions were conducted is that they wrote locations, various locations around the San Francisco Bay Area, on file cards, wrote in details how to get there and what was there. Then they sealed these file cards in an envelope, and of course they had hundreds of envelopes which they put in a security safe. Now, when it came time to run the experiment, one of the men would go to the safe, take out an envelope, go down to the car, open the envelope. Now, they had coordinated watches, and he would drive immediately to that location. Now, 30 minutes later, the psychic that was going to be tested would sit in the laboratory and focus his mind upon where this outward-bound experimenter had gone. Where was he? What was he experiencing? Now, the original psychics were tremendously talented, people like Ingo Swann and Uri Geller. But they worked with many, many psychics. And what they found is that every one of them could do it. Every one of them could successfully project their mind to a distant location. And so they needed a control group. And they found a lot of volunteers who claimed to have no psychic ability whatsoever. But what the experiments proved is that almost every one of them was able to successfully project their mind to another location. So Richard described his experiences to me, and he said that he went to SRI, and they explained how the process was conducted. And his reaction to this was, well, I'll just be making it up. I'm just going to close my eyes or go into trance and tell you what I'm perceiving. I'll just be making it up. And they said, yeah, fine. You'll just be making it up, but you'll be making up real things. And they explained to him that they expected him to be psychic. Out there, if you're psychic, you're weird. But in here, they said, we expect you to be psychic. They said, it's okay to be right. It's okay to be wrong. Just pretend and see what happens. So the idea is to trust the impressions that you perceive through the blackness of your closed eyes. Now, as a good example, maybe you could close your eyes right now while you're watching this and imagine your bathroom at home. Now, you're very familiar with your bathroom. Perceive it. And you see, you are seeing, maybe perceive is a better word, you're perceiving impressions of your bathroom through the blackness of your closed eyes. And that's the very least that you're going to do in the remote viewing session that we're going to conduct in a few minutes. Now, once they convinced Richard Bach to do the session, he said he altered his consciousness. I believe he has a background in Silva, and so he went down into an altered state of consciousness, and he just opened his mind and began to perceive impressions. And the first impressions he received were of a pointed building, a very unique, architecturally unique building. And he described the roof, he described the doors, and then he had the feeling that he had gone inside. And once he was inside, he felt maybe he was in an airline terminal because there was a long white counter along one wall. and he said he saw a corporate logo behind the counter. And he had the feeling that there were colored lights in the ceiling. Many different colors of light were shining down into the room. Now, when the test was complete, they took Richard to the site, and actually it was a church with the exact kind of architecture that he had described, this pointed, very unusual pointed roof. The roof was as he described it, the doors were as he described. They got inside, and of course, the counter was the altar along one end of the church. The corporate logo was the cross. Now, there were not any colored lights in the ceiling, he said, but there were stained glass insets, and the sun was shining brightly, so the effect was certainly that of colored lights. Now, Richard Bach had no doubt that he had successfully been able to project his mind to another location. Now, you can do it too. I started, after Richard explained this to me, I started using this technique in my seminars. And what I found is that the whole seminar room full of people was able to successfully mind project. Usually we'd have at least a 90% success rate. So, let's see if you can't do the same thing. Now, you can project anywhere or to anyone if you can capture their essence in your mind. Unless, of course, they are using a protectory technique to block such impressions. Tara and I automatically use this protectory technique in the morning and evening for obvious reasons. But if you'd like a specific target to project to, I would suggest the Malibu Shaman bookstore. Now, I suggest this because we're going to give you some targets which you can call and check on. You can check your own accuracy. So, to better explain, let's go down to the store. I'm standing in front of the store owned by my son Scott. Now, it's located at Pacific Coast Highway and Cross Creek Road in Malibu, California. Now, before we go inside, let me take you on a little tour of the neighborhood that may help you to better target your remote viewing session. First, the store is located in the Country Mart, a small shopping area and playground in the center of Malibu. This is as close as we get to any kind of downtown. The Civic Center is a block away. A few blocks up the street from the Shaman is Pepperdine University, which looks out over the Pacific. A block from the bookstore is the entrance to Malibu Colony, the gated community of the rich and famous who live on this private strip of beach. A few blocks down the street is the famous Alice's Restaurant and the Malibu Pier. Looking inland on the hill behind the store is this castle. In this direction is Sierra Retreat and more elegant homes. We're now inside the Malibu Shaman. It's a metaphysical bookstore, a self-help tape and New Age music tape store. It's a crystal store. And also on Saturday nights, it's become a small seminar center. All right. These are examples of your remote viewing targets. Now, each month we're going to change the color of the circle. We're going to change the number. The number will be between 1 and 10. And we're going to change a small object. It will be placed by the circle on top of the listening bar, which is behind me. Now, these objects will be placed right beneath the neon heads. The heads are on 24 hours a day. The object will overlap the circle. We'll change the target items on the 1st of every month. Now, these are only examples. To find out what's up there right now, you have to do the remote viewing session that we're going to begin in just a moment. Now, when the session is over, if you would like to see if you have successfully completed the remote viewing session and you've targeted the store, you can call the number that is now showing up on the screen. Now, the number will be answered by an answering machine, and it will tell you the color of the circle, the number, and the object that is sitting there right now. Now, the message will also convey a Valley of the Sun special, which will be available only through this medium. Now, we guarantee to keep this exercise in play through December of 1992.
All right, let's do a remote viewing session. It's time to unplug the telephone and make sure you won't be interrupted. Then, get comfortable in front of your television set. Mystics say we are limited by the world only because we believe we are limited by it. So, for the length of this altered state of consciousness session, why not pretend that you aren't limited? Just trust your mind and let go. People new at remote viewing usually pepper their narratives with disclaimers such as, "I know this is only my imagination," or "This comes to mind," or "I'm probably only making this up, but..." Now, you don't need to do this. Let's just assume from the beginning that you're just making it up. I believe you'll be making up real things, but you can check that out later. When it's time to begin remote viewing, some people find that flash images or impressions are most accurate, while others like to concentrate on the slower emerging images for best results. You'll have to experiment on your own to find out what works best for you. These images will come in the form of thoughts, visualizations, imaginings, or feelings. Then, you can simply remember what you perceived until you awaken, or you can speak up into a tape recorder, or have someone there to make notes. Some people even like to keep a pad and pen in their lap to draw pictures of the remote location, object, or situation. Now, in just a moment, the pictures on the screen will change to an endless stairway, and we'll begin the induction. This session is extremely powerful, and although you may feel little difference, it uses state-of-the-art brain-mind follow-response technology to alter consciousness. Now, most people do not realize that after about 5 minutes, they're in an eyes-open altered state. You'll probably feel as you normally do while watching television, but your mind will be functioning at an alpha level and subconsciously receptive to the suggestion that you can project your mind to another person or location of your choice. You may close your eyes at any time while viewing the tape, but there will come a time when I ask you to close your eyes so you can begin the remote viewing. All right. You are now perfectly comfortable, and it's time to soften your focus and keep your eyes on the screen. Breathe deeply and relax completely. Breathe deeply and relax completely. Take a deep breath in and hold it for as long as you comfortably can. Then let the breath slowly out through slightly parted lips. And when you think the breath is all the way out, contract your stomach muscles and push it further out and further out. Then repeat the process, and as you do, you feel yourself just begin to let go and relax, relax, relax. You're breathing deeply and relaxing completely, and allowing the quietness of spirit to begin to come in. Slow down your thoughts. When external thoughts come into your mind, simply brush them aside and return your attention to the screen and the sound of my voice as you breathe deeply and relax completely. Breathing deeply and relaxing completely. So relaxed and so at ease, so relaxed and so at ease. And your entire body is relaxing, 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 so relaxed and so at ease as you descend the stairs. Your body becomes more and more relaxed, more and more relaxed, relaxed, so relaxed, so at ease, descending, 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 deeper, 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 down, 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 descending, 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 down, deeper, down, down, deeper, down, 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 deeper and deeper, down, 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 down. And you are now open and receptive, and your body is going to sleep, but your mind is awake and alert as you go down deeper and deeper and deeper, down, 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 deeper and deeper and deeper, down, 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 descending, 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 deeper and deeper and deeper, down, 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 deeper, 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 down, 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 deeper, down, sleep, down, sleep, down, deeper and deeper and deeper, down, down, and deeper and deeper and deeper, down, 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 and your body is going to sleep, to sleep, to sleep, deeper and deeper and deeper, down, 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 descending, 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 deeper and deeper and deeper, down, 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 descending, 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 deeper and deeper, down, 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 descending, 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 deeper and deeper and deeper, down, down, down. And you are now very, very deep. And I want to give you a self-releasing suggestion. If at any time you desire to awaken to full beta consciousness, simply count yourself up from 1 to 5 and say the words, wide awake. You are in control, and you can awaken yourself at any time. And now, if you have not already done so, it's time to close your eyes. Your eyes are so tired and so heavy. So close your eyes, and it's time to decide upon your remote viewing target. Now you absolutely have the power and ability to accurately project your mind to another person or location and to perceive what's happening there. So take a moment now to think about your projected target. If the target is a person, capture their essence in your mind, how they look, how they move, how they talk. Do this now. Concentrate upon your remote viewing target while I am quiet for a few moments. All right. You have the power and ability to project your mind to your target. You are going to trust every thought, feeling, and visualization which may come in as flash images or slowly emerging impressions. On the count of 3, you will let go and mentally project to a remote location. Then, after 10 minutes, I'll call you back and awaken you with positive suggestions. All right. Get ready to project your mind. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. And it's time to return, return, return. You're coming on back now and remembering everything. You have the power and ability to mind project, and every time you experience this session, you get better and better, more and more accurate. And now, in just a moment, I'm going to wake you up. You'll awaken with your head clear, thinking and acting with calm self-assurance, and feeling glad to be alive. You'll feel at peace with yourself, the world, and everyone in it. On the count of 5, you will open your eyes and be wide awake, fully alert, and filled with energy and enthusiasm. Number 1, coming on up now, returning to full beta consciousness. Number 2, coming on up and at peace with all life. Number 3, sense the balance and harmony within you. Number 4, recall the situation in the room. And number 5, wide awake, wide awake. You are now fully awake and alert, and you feel good. And I suggest that you shut off this videotape and make notes about your experience, because altered state experiences are often like dreams, and the images quickly fade upon awakening. In these houses on this private Malibu beach live major writers, actors, rock stars, and one of the world's top tennis players. The area is conducive to creativity. It's quiet with an ideal year-round weather and clean air while still being only 20 minutes out of Los Angeles, the creative center of the world. Residents here tend to live and let live, and it's an unspoken rule that no one acknowledges or bothers celebrities. So, no matter how famous you are, when the tourists aren't around, you can live just like everyone else. best-selling metaphysical author, Jess Stern, lives in this cozy beach bungalow on Pacific Coast Highway. This is where visitors will find him at his typewriter, working on a new book or screenplay.
Good to see you. Dick, what did you say?
We have stopped by and we have brought a whole camera crew with us, as you can see.
You brought a few friends, as I
That's
said.
right. Come on. This is one of those very rare foggy days in Malibu at
Well,
the beach.
The ocean has many moods, like a woman, you know, and they're a lot alike, you know. It's hard to leave them alone, and hard to live with them sometimes, and I wouldn't want to live without the ocean. Huh?
Yep. Would you rather live without women or without the ocean?
Well, I've never have been confronted with that dilemma.
With that choice. Okay, the idea here, Jess, is to, for the first issue of the magazine that we're doing, to let people see where you live and where you work, and to talk to us about what you're working on. Your projects.
I don't think they're going to find it very stimulating. I mean, you know.
I don't know. I
live
do.
like everybody else lives, you know, with a certain amount of furniture and chairs and tables and lamps and things of that nature. But I think what makes this home different is the fact that it is on the ocean and has been rebuilt somewhat by myself.
I've watched
So
you rebuild it
conforms
over the
with
years.
The openness that I like in my life, and
Yeah.
so I convey some of that openness in my home.
What are your projects right now? What do you?
Well, I have several. I'm doing a book that I enjoy writing called The Return of Mary Magdalene, which is a sort of a fantasy in a way, but it adheres to the Bible. I don't contradict, or never have, even when I wrote I, Judas with Taylor Caldwell, which was a novel. I never contradict anything that's already in the Bible or that's inconsistent, but there are a lot of gaps, and of course, obviously this is a fantasy with Mary Magdalene coming back to find out, you know, about exactly who were the people behind the crucifixion of Christ, and also to await his coming, because we are approaching the millennium, and Matthew said in the book of Matthew, you know, there shall be dark clouds and no man shall know when he's coming. And Mary Magdalene in my book says, well, no man, but
Maybe a woman.
maybe a woman.
What about new nonfiction works, Jess?
By me, or?
Yeah. Any new? Are you going to do the Millennium
Well,
book?
yeah,
You and I have talked
got
about that many
what I'm
times.
planning to do on the millennium. And I must say, I don't enjoy that as much as I do The Return of Mary Magdalene. And because one of the reasons for it is that most of the predictions, by the very nature of prophecies, there seems to be set either in the Bible or in Greek mythology, you know, or like Cassandra, for instance. We know she's a prophet of doom. Well, all the prophets, whether Jeremiah in the Bible, they're always prophesizing doom for some reason, you know. Of course, Isaiah prophesies the coming of Christ, and that has been prophesied again. I'm getting into that and what that prophecy is, and et cetera. But for the most part, you know, you have like the Edgar Casey prophecies, where most of Los Angeles and San Francisco are going to be destroyed before the end of this decade, and New York will go.
You're going to tell us when it's time to move, right?
Well, I tell you,
We
We're
expect-
counting on. Yeah.
We're counting on Jess's
The odd
guides.
thing is that the most specific prediction is one by the U.S. Geodetic Survey, which says that the worst tidal wave of 1,400 years is going to hit our coast in March of 1993. Now, that's not Edgar Casey talking, that's them.
I'm glad my house is a couple blocks above the beach.
Oh, well,
You can come stay with us
I'll
then.
give you Nevada for the new coastline, if that happens.
Well, your guides have taken
It's not
very.
the kind of a book that cheers me up when I'm writing it.
Yeah, I understand that. Your guides have always taken very good care of you, though, Jess.
Well-
This deck out here, Terry and I were married on this deck, so this is a very special place
Yeah.
to us. But
I want-
you insured your deck about a week before the last tidal wave.
I'd like to make it a week, but it's 3 weeks.
It's 3 weeks. Well, your guides gave you 3 weeks leeway
Yeah, 3
to
weeks.
get your deck
Well, that's
insured.
because
Tidal wave came in, took it out, and of course, Jeff.
Well, I don't think that was because I was so psychic. I think it was because I was so stupid. I didn't even
I
know
think
that
you're
there
well
were-
watched over.
Well, no, I hadn't realized that there was national flood insurance that had just come in 6 weeks beforehand. And so I happened to be talking to somebody, and they said, somebody next door who doesn't believe in the psychic. And he said, well, he says, what the heck, complaining about the fact he couldn't get more than $200,000 for insurance. And I said, I didn't think you could get anything. So I took it out, and it was about 2 or 3 weeks before.
And it was good timing.
Well, I didn't get that much back. I think that the when that storm came, and we have them every 5 years, it was 1983, I was sitting here, and I was thinking, of course, of the predictions, of the Casey predictions. And I thought, well, that's going to be 1998, so I got a little breather here. And I remember my son, who was in the police force in New York, and the worst sections there at the time, anti-crime, that called me, and he said, he was in Fort Apache, for instance, the head of an anti-crime unit in Fort Apache, in the New York Police Department. He said, what are you doing there? He says, I hear they're evacuating people. Well, it was a voluntary evacuation. The only people that didn't leave the beach, this stretch of beach, was I and my neighbor next door, Stan, who was
didn't know
a
that.
structural engineer. And I remember looking up at his window. The thing was supposed to hit about 12 midnight, the worst.
Yeah.
And I called him, I saw the window there, and I said, hey, Stan, what do you think? And he was the only other person on the beach, and I figured he's a structural engineer, he knows something. I said, he says, I think we're going to be all right. Meanwhile, the waves are lashing against my windows. The surf is breaking on my
remember
deck.
it, yeah.
And I said, do you know something that I don't know? And sure enough, his house got pretty hard hit. But it's just one of those things. As I told my son, I said, well, you're in Fort Apache, I'm here, you know.
I think you were safer here, even in the middle of the storm.
You know what Edgar Casey said about that? You know, a minister came to him and he said, well, Mr. Casey, this was after all his dire predictions, you know. He said, where would be the safest place to live? And Mr. Casey looked down and kind of smiled, and he said, I wouldn't worry so much about where I live as how I live, Mr. Minister, you know.
Good.
And I think that's about all any of us can do. I think our destiny is pretty well established. Otherwise, psychics will not be able to predict 10, 20, 30 years ahead as they do.
Right.
Mhm.
What about, you were so involved in New York, and you had such a position in New York. What are you seeing?
The
Something at the
dolphins are
beach?
jumping out there. It's just beautiful.
Well, Tara's going to go watch the dolphins jump
Yeah,
while you and I
goodbye.
talk. How come you ended up moving out to Malibu, Jess?
Well, I discovered, of course, the predictions have been made by Maya Perez, who was the first psychic that ever got me interested in this area, you know, and thought I would eventually wind up in California. And but I think what happened is that years before, when I was a newspaperman in New York, I had an assignment to come out here and do a series of articles on Clark Gable. And that was about 30 years ago when I was a young guy. And Gable moved over from MGM to 20th Century Fox. And I came out here to see him. And I remember getting off the airport, and I was on a newspaperman, and thinking, yeah, what a wonderful place this is, you know. I took a cab into the Beverly Hills Hotel, and saw those oil wells drilling as you come in. The guy, of course, took the longest trip. You know, he didn't take the freeway,
Sure, yeah, bigger
so I had a nice scenic view. And I was used to Florida, but this was different. The air was different.
Yes.
There was an exhilarating factor in the air, a stimulating factor. And in Florida, you know, it was always muggy and things of that nature. And then I got to know Gable, and I did a series of articles on him for which were sold around the country. I guess about 100 newspapers took them from my syndicate, the News, Chicago Tribune Syndicate. And I liked Gable very much, and he invited me to come back out. And of course, that is where my whole career changed.
Did you ever talk with Clark Gable about psychic things, Jess?
Well, yeah, I had a psychic experience. It so happened 2 or 3 years before that, and actually after I wrote the Gable series for my newspaper and the syndicate. I did a series on extrasensory perception that year, 1956, for the paper, which I think is the first time a serious series like that was ever printed in a newspaper, you know, a popular newspaper.
Right.
But I did mention something about the psychic to Clark, and he was immediately interested because as a sensitive person and as an actor, why, I am sure he was aware of I would say, the presence of the psychic power in most individuals, and most of us. All you have to do is develop it, as you know. And it's all there. If dogs and cats and other animals have it, why should man, who is supposed to be so superior, not have it? Of course, what man has done is that he has worked it out of himself through paying so much attention and being obsessed with things like conscious things like gain and success and, you know,
Our next meal.
getting somewhere and things of that nature. Whereas the animal, they have stay in their native state, and we all know that if a dog's master dies, he could die 3,000 miles away. That dog will crawl under a bed and howl when he comes out for that dead master. You know.
Well, Jess, I want you to show us around, if you will, to show us your house, and I want to keep asking you questions as you show us your workroom upstairs and the place where you do most of your writing down here.
It's not a very large house, you know, it's not a large house.
Okay, well, we're going to take a little tour. Jess, is this where all the creativity takes place? Is this where you do most of your writing?
Yeah, this is where I do most of the writing. I also have a desk upstairs, so sometimes in the middle of the night, if I get up and have an idea, I'll go over there and usually write it in longhand. There's a computer up there, but I can't operate it.
But you can't operate it?
I'm lucky I can operate a manual typewriter.
Listen, you've done all your books on real simple manual typewriters then?
Yeah, usually a Olivetti or Olympic.
Yeah. Hold up a copy there of your copy. Show how you write with the...
Well, this is, I generally write it, the first draft will be in yellow paper so I can distinguish it. And then the final will be redone in white paper. But I don't do that. The typist that I employ will retype it, and she can read my scrolls better than I can, you know.
Yeah. Listen, the other night, you know, when we were having dinner, we were talking about what we wanted to do with the rest of our lives, and I was mentioning that I want to work on novels, develop a style to write novels, and you were talking about wanting to do screenplays. Well,
yeah, because I think, Dick, and I'm sure you think the same, I think that you don't have to stop writing books just because you're going to do screenplays or because you're going to do film, but I do feel
a new challenge, right?
Well, not only is it a challenge, I think it's a chance of reaching many more millions of people throughout the world, and if you have something that you want to convey, I don't think there's any stronger medium than a film.
Right.
And you can convey it in different ways. I mean, you can convey it as, for instance, there's a lot of the metaphysical in this book I have about capital punishment. In that particular book, I have a hero and who meets a girl, and he's a reporter, and the reporter tells the story. It's an I story by the reporter, and I find that a way I've written a lot of my nonfiction books that way. Not all of them, but I wrote that one that way.
And you bring in metaphysical points then?
Yes, I do. I have him meeting a girl that he felt he knew, and that they knew each other. It was love at first sight, and as you know, Edgar Cayce says that love at first sight is evidence of reincarnation, because people remember each other from the past, and there'd be no other reason for some of these people that fall in love at first sight to be gravitated towards each other, as even they will tell you, you know.
Why is that?
So I do have that, and he is very hesitant about reincarnation. All he knows is he felt it, so he'd known her before. She grew up in India because she was the daughter of a Episcopal bishop, and so I'm able to bring in all these things about reincarnation. And then you have a judge who's an unbeliever, but he has some, before he's through, he has some mystical tie with the Creator and influence before he's through. And he sees that even though he's a hard realist. So I do bring in the metaphysical as a metaphysical thread throughout the book. And I don't think that I could write a book without that, nor would I want to write a book that deals without that, because to me, that's all there is in the world. I mean, it's how did we get here, what are we supposed to do while we're here, and where are we going.
This is the upstairs workroom, the alcove at the bedroom.
Yeah, I work here occasionally, and the secretary I have types here and works here on her computer.
You've got to get her to teach you how to use a computer one day.
No, I don't want to learn.
Jess, how many books have you written?
I think 25 or 26, I guess maybe 26 books.
I'm fond of this one because my wife and I are in a chapter in this book.
You're in that book.
Yeah, we are in this book.
Yeah, you're in Tara. I guess nobody's mentioned it. I did introduce you, and you were married in my home, huh?
That's right. You sure did. Without this guy, why, I wouldn't have my wife, which is the best thing that ever happened to me.
Well, I think it is the best thing that ever happened to me, but I think it would have happened anyway.
Yeah. Thanks, Jess. Thank you so very much for letting us come and visit.
Well, thank you for coming in, Dick, and with your charming wife. And if I haven't done anything else, I brought together a great marriage.
You sure did. And so what I thought I would do, what I thought I would start off with here tonight, was to talk about a death that is probably the closest, most powerful experience of someone dying that I've ever had, and it took place about 8-9 weeks ago now when my mother died. And the experience, what has happened for the 9 weeks since that time, it's an ongoing story. I think we're kind of now maybe getting to basically to the end of the story, but it has been like a serial that just keeps going on because we've tried to remain in contact with her. We didn't set out to do this. We didn't plan this, but it's worked out that way. Personal story. My mother was 78 years old. She'd had a very full life. Her death was not expected, wasn't expected at all, although Tara and I had some inklings from a few things that seemed to be happening, some of the things that she was doing. But before I tell the story, let me give you just a quick background. She was a very strong-willed woman, and that's to say the least. She was married to my father for 25 years. After he died, she was single for, I think, about 3 years, and then she married another man, and she was married to him for 25 years. He died 1 year ago. She was a Presbyterian, loved the Presbyterian church, had been in the Presbyterian church, the same location, all her life, from the time she was a little girl, in Omaha, Nebraska. And she loved Omaha, Nebraska. She really loved Omaha, Nebraska. She hated California. She thought it was the weirdest place in the entire world. And she saw life through the eyes of society, or what she perceived to be the way society looks at things. That's the right way, the proper way. She was not too open to other races of people. No matter how we all worked on her, she never seemed to make a whole lot of progress in that particular area, I'm sorry to say. She believed that the whole world should be like Omaha, and the rest of the people in the world should be like her friends, and then everything would work. We would stop having problems. Over the past year, before she died, which she died on March 27th, she began to get her affairs in order. Her husband had been dead for a year. Her health was failing in little ways, and she said, I don't think I want to stay in my house. She had a nice condo. She said, I don't think I want to stay there anymore. I'm going to buy an apartment in an apartment complex, but where they monitor you, where they take care of you. If you have a problem, you can push a button and they'll come running, and they fix some of your meals, and yet you're free. You're still living a free life. And so she had put her condo up for sale. It had just sold 3 days before she died. And she had bought this apartment, and I think Skyline Manor was the name. I think she bought it because she did not want to ever get to the point where we took her to California to live. I hate to say it, but I think that's really true. She wanted to make damn sure she didn't end up out here by any chance. Although my brother lives in Minneapolis, and that wouldn't have been quite as bad. But there's a point to my stressing how much she loved Omaha. We got to be careful how much we love certain things in life, because they can really snag us, I think, after we cross over. Anyway, when we got word that she died, of course, that's a traumatic thing probably most everyone here has experienced with someone close, I would imagine. We had to make immediately plans to rush back to Omaha, Nebraska. My brother, living in Minneapolis, was able to get there quicker, several hours quicker. And so he got in the morning. We didn't get in until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon the next day. And rather than just waiting around for us, he said, I hope you don't mind, but I've arranged the funeral. I've set it up, and I've got the minister and so on. But as he started to tell us how he'd set it up, it was Terry and I just kind of looked at each other strangely, because I know my mother would much have preferred Bob to have handled the funeral, because he's also Presbyterian, and I think she worried a bit about the idea that we might work in some very strange mystical rituals or something, which we would never have done. I don't want anybody to be anything but what they are. But anyway, so she left it in Bob's hand, but he had it backwards. Somehow we were ending up going to the graveyard first and then to the church, and the minister was Japanese, and I just kind of shuddered, and so did Tara, and we thought, oh my God, she's going to haunt us. Anyway, when the funeral happened, it's easier to joke about this now. Some time has passed. At first, it was just... But the funeral worked out pretty well. I mean, it was ass backwards, but it worked out pretty well. And when we got home that night, of course, worn out, I'm just laying there in the bed. We stayed at her condo because we had all the effects that we had to get handled. I had to get back to California. I had many things pending. My brother had his work. We both work for ourselves, so there's not... You got to make sure that you're covered. Anyway, that night, my brother and his wife went somewhere else to see her sister, and Tara and I were alone with our children in the condo. And Tara was washing, trying to get all the clothes cleaned up so they could be passed on to whoever. And all of a sudden, she came up, and Tara was really just kind of... she says, your mom... I really felt your mom's presence for the first time. She said, I think she was there when we were picking out the clothes to bury her in. She said, I really felt a strong presence then, but nothing like right now. She said, I was washing, and I turned around, and I caught that, out of the peripheral vision, I caught movement, that she was right there. And when I looked, of course, she wasn't right there. But her presence, her smell, she said, even was there. And she had washed all the clothes, and she looked around trying to figure out why here in the washroom. And she said her underwear was on top of the clothing, and she was so proper. She says, I'm sure that she would not want anybody to see that. So she said, I covered it up. I had that feeling, like, cover it up. It was like, okay. Now, I wouldn't normally do this. I wouldn't normally say, make contact with someone who has just crossed over. Now, Tara, though, is incredible with automatic writing. I have a long history. She's been working on this for about 8 years. She's worked at automatic writing. She has developed it to a fine art. I know in retrospect, in looking back at the writing that she's done, how effective and accurate it's been. She's predicted exacting things in the family to the month when these things would happen. Things that she didn't even tell the other people about sometimes. Her mother's remarriage, things like this, when it seemed highly improbable. So she has a very strong background in automatic writing. She knows what she's doing. She knows trance work. She can go down, her eyes will rim, so you know she's in a deep trance. And the writing just comes through for her. So I asked her, I said, would you be willing, if you feel the presence so strong, do you feel that she's really wants to communicate? And Tara's reaction was yes. Yes, I think she does. I said, would you be willing to do any automatic writing? And Tara's reaction was sure, be glad to. So she sat down, and what she does, she goes into a deep trance, and she has a temple room. She, as part of the trance inducement, she visualizes herself going up into the temple room. And then those on the other side come in from the back entrance to this temple room. And she's worked it out to be a very, very real room for her, in which a very spiritual room. And she sits down and she begins to write, and she lets them take control of her hand. But in this case, the moment that she The moment that Tara went into trance, and I was sitting right there because this was one I was really interested in, and I saw her eyes begin to rem, and then her hand just took off, real jerky at first, very, very, very strange. And what she was doing, Mother was there. Mother was right there at the edge of the bed. She wasn't in the temple room. She was still right, totally earthbound, right here, right now. Maybe not earthbound. I don't know if that's the right word, but she was right there. And Tara said, well, I can't communicate with you. This is mind-to-mind communication. She said, I can't communicate with you. You've got to come with me. And we'll go up these stairs to my temple room. And then I can let you take control of my hand. And so that's what happened. It was quite a process. It was very difficult at first. The words are very weird. And yet then they take off. And now Tara and my mother wrote back and forth once a week, but my mother always typed it. So she's not really familiar with her handwriting. And yet here's the exact, we compared this later, the exact way my mother did the writing. There was some of Tara in it, but it was mostly my mother's writing. And she said, there's this person here, this nice person. She's really friendly. She wants me to come take a walk with her. But I'm not going. She wanted to stay right there. She was curious about the funeral. And she knew it was going to be a catastrophe. And she said, it was okay. It was all right. I think my mother influenced me because I woke up that morning, the actual morning of the funeral, and I said to Tara, I think I better do some talking. I don't know what this guy's going to be like. I mean, it worked out that the Japanese man was wonderful, but I wasn't so sure that it was going to work. And so I kind of in my head I didn't write anything down, but I put it together in my head, and I did stand up and deliver this at the funeral. But I think she was so concerned that it was going to be a catastrophe, at least she was going to entrust me to talk. But it worked out, and she says, I know I'm dead, and the way you guys are eating is terrible. See, this is because what we were doing, everybody brought over food, and so whoever is hungry, go eat. But she was very upset about that. You should take the time and sit down and have a meal, and my house is a mess. And of course it was, because we're trying to find the records and we're trying to figure out. She'd worked it out as to where everything would go. It was numbers on the bottom of all of her possessions. You know, this goes to Irene, this goes to Beverly. So it was a mess trying to figure it out, but she was terribly upset about this. Very tied to the earth, being concerned about what was going on here in her house. She says, I've been yelling at you since you got here. I yell and nobody pays any attention to me. And she says, finally I see when I just say things over and over and over and over, it starts to get through to you. Which I thought was kind of interesting. And then she said, Dick told me to talk to Dave after he died, her second husband. And she said, I did for a while, but I didn't think it was doing any good, so I quit. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I'd continued to talk to him. She said, the friend keeps telling her it's time to go now. She can go. Come walk. We're going to take a walk down the path to the light. And she says, I'm not leaving the boys and the girls, meaning my wife, my brother's wife, her granddaughters. And I'm not leaving Omaha. She didn't want to leave her friends. But this Omaha issue, it got exaggerated after death. She says, Dave, her second husband, keeps coming to her and saying, don't be stubborn, Jenny, come on. But she's just tuning him out. That's where the writing was left. And so a little family conference, our ideas in talking, the four of us, were saying, let's all send her light and tell her to go to the light. You know, let go of this now. It's time to let go. So we finished up in Omaha and we returned to California. And 2 weeks passed. And Tara then said, she said, I feel your mother's presence here very strongly. I think I better get in contact with her again. I don't think she's leaving. She says she doesn't stay here a long time, but I feel her come in real hard, and she, at night, in my dreams, she's just after me, probably when Tara was out of body. And so she went ahead and Tara did some more writing. Now this time, the friend was there, and so was my mother's spiritual guide. And she had tuned them both out. She wasn't having any of it. She said, I just want to go back to my house. I don't even need all of it. Don't even need all the space, just a little of the space. I know I'm dead, but I sure would like to just go back to the house. Jeez. And Tara was communicating with my mother's guide and with this new friend, and they're saying, we can't do anything. She's just tuned us out. She won't listen. It's going to take time. And she did not want, and the word Omaha kept coming up. She says, I don't spend much time with you out here in California, but I'm spending time with my friends in Omaha, and I'm happy with that. So Dave keeps coming by saying, don't be stubborn, Jenny, but he doesn't stick around long. So that was the way it was left for quite a while. And we would all, at night as you're crossing over, we'd say, Mother, go to the light. Let go now. You don't need this anymore. You can go to the light and everything will work out very well. Then a couple weeks ago, Tara did one more time. She did some direct writing because she felt that maybe it would be desirable. She again was feeling Mom there in her dreams. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Tara come out here in just a minute and read that last writing, which might communicate, a little better than my just telling the story here. Every one of us, of course, is very concerned with what happens after death because we all got to go. And the idea of reincarnation. Now that had come up. One of the things that I should probably add here, being the good Presbyterian, my mother was, I think, always embarrassed by the fact that she had a son who communicated the sort of things that I communicated. And in the second direct writing, she said, I asked about that. And they said, well, yes, but the only way you can go back to Omaha is to be a baby. And I don't see any, and I don't understand that. So, anyway, listen, let me bring my wife out here if she's back here, I hope. Tara, honey, are you here? Can I get you to come out? Yeah. This is my wife, Tara. Should take this one. I'll see if I have one. Why don't you explain it?
Okay. Well, I'm going to read you some of the automatic writing, the third automatic writing that I got from her. Anyway, she had, I went up my temple stairs to my temple room, and she happened to be there. So, wanting to talk to me, I had felt that she had wanted to talk to me another time when I go up to my temple room sometimes as I'm going to sleep. I felt that she maybe wanted to talk to me, so I went ahead, but I didn't feel that she was hanging around anymore, that maybe I had set up a process on the second automatic writing that her guides sit with her like a card table because she liked to play bridge and pinochle, and so I set up a table and said, why don't you get to know these ladies? They can tell you a lot about your past, and maybe you guys can get to be friends talking about your life and your marriages and children, and so I felt that they really that's maybe where that turn came in, where she could be friends with the ladies that were helping her out. So this is such a beautiful place. You will remember me here, as I will stay here for a long time. Sorry it isn't very legible. I guess since you are back in the United States, it's easier for you.
United States.
I've accepted very well my dead presence. It was nice of you to come with me, to wish me a happy Mother's Day. I hope you will come and visit me again soon. I miss all the kids. My Bobby, Jim, Isla, the girls, and also my California relatives. I've been learning a lot about the way life and death works. You know how curious I am when I get interested in a subject. Well, I was introduced to this woman who would quiz me on what steps I'd like to achieve while dead. I told her I wanted to go to heaven, and she asked me what my idea of heaven was, and we were immediately at this spot. All the beautiful flowering trees, flowers, benches, and grass. The sunshine is pale and not too hot or too cold. This is my idea of heaven, and all the people are dressed so neatly and are all kind. I have not seen Jesus or the number one God yet, but this woman said I would not, for a very long while anyway. Then she told me to release my happiness onto the flowers and grass, and I became very happy here. Occasionally I miss Omaha, but when I think really hard, I collide with something. I then see Omaha, but it doesn't feel good anymore, like heaven. The woman then told me to call out to anyone I'd like to see that has passed on. I called Mother and Grandmother. Grandmother came right away, but no sign of Mother yet. Grandmother took me into her arms, and I felt very small. She comes to see me very often, and we have a really nice visit. I don't sleep really or eat, although my senses are very clear. I could if I really wanted to, but I feel the time gets different here. The night here is scary for me. I associate it with many evils, but once I listened to the night sounds, and I ran back for the lighted garden and listened to the morning doves and birds. I haven't seen Earl. Dave calls out to me, but I don't want to get in the middle of his and Charlotte's happiness.
His ex-wife. He was married once before. So.
Yeah, Dave. She's real funny about wanting to get involved with Charlotte and Dave.
They were buried in separate places.
Yeah. Richard's mother was buried with Richard's mom. I mean, with your father. I'm sorry. Anyway, I haven't seen Earl. Oh, but I don't want to get in the middle of his and Charlotte's happiness. Earl, they say, is far away, that the journey I shouldn't worry myself with yet. I call out to him. My friends Janalee and Henrietta are very good to me, and they try to explain some of Dick's reincarnation ideas with me. I still can't understand it very well, but they said Dick is pretty right on the track. The master soul over tiny others, and Jessie was indeed a product of my Earl, although as a whole person of Earl she is not. I wish I could have made better friends with Dick's kids, but I guess it's too late now. I am glad you at least visit me, Tara. I keep waiting for Dick, Bob, Isla, and Sandy, but no one so far has used your method of coming up. Although I hear Bob sometimes saying nice things to me and about me, lots of remember whens. As for Dick, occasionally he says hi as he's going to the light and expresses some loving thoughts. I do catch those, but they are now very faint with my being in heaven. I really don't know if this is heaven, this very beautiful garden, but I think so. I think of more angels when people come in from above. We chat about our earthly life and how we loved our families and some other memories. I still worry occasionally, but find myself in a cloud of smoke if I think of Isla smoking. So I'm not doing that to myself, although I want her to be good to herself, Bob, and the girls. I fear Dick works too hard with too many responsibilities. But I trust that you, Tara, keep him happy and with what you all eat, healthy. Now I really am not hungry here. I know
She did not like our primary vegetarian diet, is basically.
I know some of my friends in Omaha are on the brink of passing away. I can't help but stay here just in case they want to have a visit with me. I know that's not being very realistic, but I do miss them. I'm stopping thinking of them so much since I do that crashing and spinning. I don't know how to control myself yet that way. Tell all the families Grandma sends love. Thank you, Tara, for coming to see me. Kiss the babies for Grandma. I'm informed Tara will contact Bob and Isla. Tell Isla Happy Mother's Day. I will pick some gladiolas for her to remember her. I love you, kids. Much love, Mom and Grandma.
Does that bring up any questions? I want this just to be real casual here so we can do Q&A back and forth or whatever.
Because Charlotte and
Charlotte,
and Dave were buried together, they were then together in heaven? Is that what
well, I think she thinks that her ex-husband got together with his ex-wife in heaven. That's her idea, because she'd always wanted to be buried by my father, and Dave had always wanted to be buried by his first wife. I mean, it was a very strange relationship that they had. So all of her preconceived ideas about how it should be and not interfering have been carried over across to the other side. And I think that's the important thing to understand. Yeah, Dave was saying, come on, Jenny, don't be stubborn. Come on, go to the light. You know, he's had a year to get used to it. I'm sure he was just as stubborn as she was, but... No, the two women were somebody who was there who was just helping people across, yes, and then her spirit guide. Her spirit guide, Tara had contact with several times before, and she was very stern, very straight-laced type of a person.
that makes interesting reading and a lot longer story. So, you know, I recall Ruth Montgomery's writing. Ruth's a friend, and I just love her, and a big influence on me. And I recall her writing in The World Beyond, of course, about the idea of carrying over the addictions, the hang-ups, the lusts that we have in this life, whether it's alcohol or smoking or an addiction to sex, whatever it might be, or an addiction to Omaha. And it's a little, you know, as Ruth said and pointed out so well, and Arthur Ford, of course, came through to communicate what he'd experienced after death. And this whole idea of if we have addictions or if we get too hung up on something, we better resolve it while we're here rather than waiting until we get to the other side, because it's a lot easier to do it here than on the other side. And so if you have these very strong preconceived ideas like my mother did about everything the way it should be, she had the idea that when you die, you go to heaven. Heaven is going to be this wonderful, wonderful place, and on and on and on and on and on. I think it's good, and this really shows to me, to be a little more flexible while we're here. A lot more flexible while we're here. A lot less judgmental, and to get rid of the expectations, maybe. Anyone else? Any questions on this? Yeah.
When Hannah started to go into trance, her eyes would.
Well, when she goes into deep trance, now this doesn't happen with everyone, but when she goes into deep trance, excuse me, her eyes will rapid eye movement, REM. And you can see them flickering underneath there. In other words, she may be sitting up with that pen in hand, but she is in a deep altered state of consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the first time that I went into hypnosis, when I had first kind of was surprised there in her house, I had gone into trance, and I usually take 2 pens with me. And the other one I was holding, and all the black ink came all over my legs. Yeah. Well, that I was so out of it, I didn't feel that. Yeah, just running down my legs.
She's not there at all. I don't know if she'd be in deep alpha or theta. I don't know for sure,
Yeah,
but
I don't
you'd
know.
have to measure her on an instrument to know. Yeah. Anyone else?
Just in case the other one.
Be prepared. Anyone else? Any questions at all on this? Yes. Well, I questioned that too. Why was she fearing the night? And I think what we're dealing with here is that she is on the other side, and she's pretty much still earthbound. All she has done is she's made that transitory step to the point where she realizes that you can create the reality you're experiencing with the power of your mind. And in other words, her guide is working with her, trying to get her used to this by saying, what do you perceive heaven to be? Because, of course, everybody has probably a different idea of what it really is. Well, she perceived it to be at least this wonderful garden. So, boom, the power of thought on the other side creates the reality. But she's still here, really, mentally. And so she's still fearing the dark and the unseen and the unknown. She really has not gone very far yet. But it's a major step. It says to me, we're going to, as long as we let go of Omaha and the friends and the family, I know we're on our way. You know, it's going to be okay. Yes, ma'am? The spinning and the crashing, the idea of coming up against something, I think that's probably part of adapting to the other side. I'll bet that was really a surprise to me, because that was a new one to me. My guess is that as part of this transition, when it's time to go, you start setting up these blocks for yourself. In other words, if we're going to be too stuck on Omaha, well, every time now, once you've gone this far, when you start thinking about it, now you're going to smack into yourself, or I forget exactly how she phrased it, but that was a new one to me. Yeah.
Did she address the problem of her sudden departure?
Yes, she did. She about her sudden departure, and yet she had said that she was not. I had asked her if she knew that she was going to die beforehand, and she said no, and that all of a sudden the pain got so horrible. She had gone to the doctor that day. She'd driven herself to the hospital. I don't know if Richard told you that. She'd driven herself to the hospital, and then went to the emergency room, which we felt real thankful that she was at the hospital when all this happened. But she had been monitored for about an hour and a half, and all of a sudden, the pain, she started having a massive cardiac arrest, and all of a sudden she was just over her body. I mean, it was there, and she didn't realize she was dead. She just, but the pain was gone. That's all she cared about at that time. But she had been real sentimental. She said she had been really sentimental with this moving. She had been packing boxes. Richard had gotten a box, actually, and opened it after he got home, that she had sent up little mementos all throughout his child. Yeah, that day she died, she had gone to the post office before, and yes, it was really a special present to come home to. Yeah.
Our seminars are usually held in hotel ballrooms with about 200 to 400 participants, but it's been fun to do this series of Saturday night gatherings at the Shaman with just 30 people. Now, before we end this first issue of Psychic Video Magazine, I'd like to point out that Tara uses her ability to contact the other side not just for automatic writing. She also attains a lot of very good help with her painting. I've asked her if I could show some of her paintings here.
I asked for guidance from the other side. I try to relax and concentrate really hard on my paintings. I bring down white light, and when I come to really rough spots, I ask for guidance. Well, Philoppides started coming to me, this guy dressed in Greek attire. He's kind, humorous, and he kind of became my personal instructor, was coming to me all the time. Whenever I needed help, I'd see him. So when Richard and I were recently in a Santa Monica architectural bookstore, I saw these Greek art books. And I looked in the index for Philoppides, and his name was there. And he was a great teacher in Greece.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us for this first issue of Psychic Video Magazine. And now, my daughter wants her rocking horse back. I can give this back to Cheyenne.
If you're interested in the concepts covered on this tape, and you're not receiving Master of Life magazine, please write or call today and we'll send you a sample issue. The colorful magazine is filled with self-help articles and metaphysical research and information, and is mailed free to anyone purchasing Valley of the Sun books or tapes. Each issue contains a complete catalog of hundreds of audio and video tapes, New Age music, and metaphysical books. Call or write us at the number or address shown on the screen. Some of our newest products include these 5-tape power packs, which offer 1 video hypnosis and 4 audio tapes on 1 subject. The tapes are the ultimate approach to self-change. Valley of the Sun also offers complete seminars on tape and special 1-tape videos exploring a specific subject such as automatic writing or astral projection.